Now, let me address this.
Even if I grant you that, if I grant you just so happens that there is slavery in the Bible, can you answer me, what are you doing for the so-called slaves of today in society? Are you ramping and rampaging about those ones of today? Or you just want to cry about what happened in the Bible that has nothing to do with you? But as I've seen, you don't talk about the slavery of today. And I'm not even talking about jobs. I'm talking about actual illegal immigrants that come to this country and work on the dimes and pennies in order to have a life, which they would be included as a bond servant under that criteria. I don't see you screaming, ranting, and raving about that. But
So, like, what confuses me is, like, I've been in a lot of debates on TikTok. I've talked with a lot of Christians. I've learned a lot of stuff. I've taken notes on what people are saying. I've read on what people are saying. And a common phenomenon that I keep coming across is, like, whenever we're, like, discussing a certain issue and we're getting mad at, like, the Christian God for not doing something or for doing something, multiple Christians have done exactly what I'm about to explain to you. They do this thing where they try to pivot the conversation from their God that has all these properties and is very capable of solving every world issue at the snap of his fingers. Essentially, in like 1 second he could solve everything, and they move the burden to the person complaining, asking like, why aren't you doing anything to solve the problem? Like, multiple Christians on this app have done this, and they've like mastered this technique of like pivoting the topic and turning the responsibility on you. And it's the reason why me and I Wonder don't really talk anymore, because we were debating about like the state legislating that the 10 Commandments must be hung up in the classroom, and if you don't hang it up in the classroom you could lose your teacher's license. And then, you know, that conversation was pivoted towards what am I doing to protect children in other facets of society, which has nothing to do with our concern for forcing Christianity or theology on children, and religion being intertwined with the state, which is not supposed to happen. When I was on He Is Risen's live, we were talking about like children being born in poor families, or being born to poor families, and I was trying to like defend myself and the things I said during the me versus Brody debate, and I never really got to get my like words out and explain like my position. We were kind of like jumping all over the place, but I did notice how the conversation then turned to like, what am I personally doing to help like poor people or contribute to the community, which pivot and literally has nothing to do with the conversation. And now, this video that I'm stitching, we're switching the conversation from God fully condoning slavery, right, to what am I doing to help the slaves, or as they're defined, you know, like immigrant workers that come into this country and, you know, are working under terrible conditions and stuff like that. That could be considered some type of slavery. Aside from the 100% complete pivot, right, let me answer why this is a problem. The God that you believe in has the following traits. If we're going by classical theism, right, your God is going to be omnibenevolent, which means that God is all good. Your God's going to be omniscient, which means that he is all-knowing and he knows past, present, and future events. Your God's going to be omnipotent, which means that he is all-powerful. And then there are a couple other character traits, but one other one to name is that your God is also going to have omnipresence, which means he is present everywhere. I'm not sure if like the omnipresent one is part of classical theism. It might not be, so everyone please do your research and don't take my word for it on that. You're posing the question towards me, asking me like, what have I done to help people, right? But the thing is, like, I don't have that much of an ability to help people, right? Well, your God does. Your God knew all of the evil things that were going to happen in this world, and he still decided to set it in motion. Not only that, it is highly debatable that while a lot of terrible things are happening in our world, which I could spend time listing them, but I mean, we all know, right? All of those things are happening and God's watching, and he's not doing a single thing that we can measure empirically to stop any of that. major terrible historical events have occurred, and we have no empirical way of measuring God's involvement in trying to stop any of those things happening. Not only that, terrible things are happening in today's world, and God is watching all of that happening, and he chooses to do nothing. This is the question that is asked when we are discussing like the problem of evil. Is evil compatible with God, and how could God just sit by and do nothing? And then, in that is sprinkled like a little bit of like divine hiddenness. Now, if you're asking like, what am I doing or what I can do? I'm a human. I'm not Superman, right? So like there's only very little that I can do to really like help people. I have problems that I'm dealing with. One example of my issues being $2,000 of car payments that I need to take care of in order to fully repair my car. In today's society and today's economy, people are struggling, and there's limits to what we can do. We have to help ourselves first, right? But your God has all of these abilities, and at the snap of a finger could literally help anyone or everyone simultaneously. But in the span of my lifetime, there's been like tons of stuff that I've done to help other people. I don't have to specify any of the things I've done to help other people. I don't have to prove that to any of the Christians who are asking. But I've spent my fair share of time in food pantries, helping out people who are homeless. I've given away some of my personal clothing, watches, to children in Nigeria who need help, because my family has visited Nigeria multiple times, and I've seen what poverty is like. In growing up, I'm pretty sure like all of us can relate and also identify periods in our lives where we've helped out somebody who is in need at little to no cost to ourselves. But we have to take care of ourselves first. We can't help other people if we can barely help ourselves. One example of this is like whenever you're in an airplane, right, and an airplane is crashing, the rule is you put your mask on first before you help your children or anybody else put their mask on first, right? Because if you don't put your mask on and you pass out, you're a liability that somebody else has to save. You take care of yourself before you can help other people, because there's only so much you can do when you're not taken care of.